Hello everybody, Ninjas here and welcome back to Bye Bye Earth episode 4, in which... I have no idea. I legitimately have no clue. Besides the fact that my chair is very squeaky. I hope you can't hear it on the video, but if you can, then I'm terribly sorry. Right. I legitimately have no idea what's going to happen in today's episode of Bye Bye Earth because, I mean, every single episode so far has been completely defying any expectations, any understanding, anything like that. For all I know, in today's episode, we can have Belle fight a flesh skeleton or engage in a philosophical debate with a glowing skull of a dragon or whatever the fuck, really. Nothing will surprise me plenty will surprise me in this show, but I expect to be surprised at this point. What happened in the previous episode? Maybe that's gonna give us a little bit more of a clue. In the previous episode, well, of course, Belle fought the centaur guy and went for his weapon, of course, as to spare the guy, right? To not kill him, she decided to destroy the weapon so that he's out of the picture, right? He can't fight without a weapon. And apparently that is a slight so much more, like, grave than killing that guy. Like, destroying his weapon is, whoa, you know? Wait a moment there, you don't do that. Now, you know, Mercy killing him, that's perfectly fine, but his weapon, no, that's off limits. So it again shows us just how completely topsy-turvy this world is, where the life of a person counts for less than the existence of a weapon, seemingly. Which, there's my cat here, and she probably wants pets, by the way. It probably stems from the fact that the god of this world, right, the Yggdrasil, or Yggdrasil is called, right? Yeah. The Yggdrasil is like the cancerous, like, sword growth, or however they described it, right? So weapons that are grown are kind of like the angels of the god, right? Maybe some sort of a this sort of a relationship, which would explain the importance of weapons and their almost, you know, godly status. But yeah, Belle won in the end, and so she was granted the, you know, entry into the service of the country, and now that she will serve there, and she will perform, like, what, 3 plays, I think the priest mentioned, the priest king, yeah, the priest king mentioned, I think, like 3 plays, which essentially I would assume amounts to like 3 things that Belle will have to do to get the permission to become a nomad. What are those things gonna be? I don't know. Probably are gonna involve some fighting, maybe hunting something, maybe finding some ancient artifact. Stuff like that is fairly commonplace, which in hindsight probably means that what we're gonna be doing is something completely different, right? Then. Right, the raid, right? The raid of the evil people on the good people has been pre-planned, preordained, right? It's something that's gonna happen, and you can't defend from that raid. No, only if you're chosen by the god, that's when you are allowed to defend, because, you know, the result also has to be preordained, right? The evil people fight the good people. That's how it is, after all, and sometimes the good people win, and sometimes the bad people win, and it's the god who decides. We can't let the populace decide who's gonna win in that skirmish after all. Belle has none of that, of course. She runs off because she catches wind that her parents might be among the people raided. She manages to catch the raiders, led by a bagman with magic, with super cool magic, like waving his smoking pipe and creating fire. Fire like magic circle that Belle was able to shatter with her sword, which is cool. And Belle, of course, manages to free the villagers, free her parents as well. Gets a little bit of closure, right? Gets to meet her sister, and learns that her sister is named Belle's sister, Little Belle. I think something like that is the translation of her name. So she knows that, yeah, her parents were still thinking about her, but she's not going to be back, and they're not going to tell the little child that she has a sister, of course. So there's, still that that bit of distance between them. During the course of the fight, Belle loses her necklace, which is significant somehow. And in the meantime, well, not in the meantime, after all that is done, the rabbit that Belle has with her, the top hat rabbit, munches on Philosopher's Stone that Belle apparently had in her possession, and turns into a humanoid, and seemingly can see through the veil, the third wall, fourth wall, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? He's like, oh, the programming of the world, and I don't even know, man. I don't even know. But he knows something about the fates, right? Like he has a watch that allows him to do something with people's fates. He then vanishes, appears in the hideout of some of the thugs that attacked him, and makes them hallucinate being on fire, and also takes like a vial of sacred ashes with him, but the sacred ashes are pink, and usually sacred ashes are like baby blue or white. And that's another thing, sacred ashes, who can apparently heal any injury and ailment, but there is some sort of a deep dark secret between them being hinted at least. The rabbit then goes to search for Belle's necklace, finds the raiders, trades the necklace for his watch, which is not a great trade because his watch can apparently control reality to some degree, and then invites Belle for a dinner at a place where nomads often meet. We also get to know the rabbit's name. The rabbit's name is Kitty the Owl, which, I mean, only in this show can a rabbit be named Kitty. and the more animalistic form of his is Kitty the Nothing. So it's not really like he's both and can shapeshift, but rather it's like two separate entities, but kinda in occupying the same space in reality, like something along those lines, probably. Kitty gives Belle her necklace back, but before that they hear to a performance, to a songstress, singing a song somewhat relevant to Belle's life and other shenanigans that she's been up to. And Belle raises a question: is she going to be creating something? We're not going to be building anything, are we? Are you planning to create stuff? Because that's what she associates songs with. So even the girl of reason has been tainted, quote unquote, by the unreasonableness of this world, where a song is expected to be used to create and not just for artistic expression. That also gives us an insight into what the nomad curses can be, because the songstress apparently can only communicate in song. She's otherwise mute, but she can sing rather beautifully in a weird language that's like a mixture of, I don't know, German, French, and Latin. which would probably make Dutch. I don't know. Maybe it's just made up language, probably. Then Kitty the Old disappears. And sometime in the meanwhile, we have Sian meet up with the sword right, who made his sword and gives his sword back to the sword right so that she can fix it. Apparently he was like struck in the arm. His arm was cleaved clean off, but he has the arm back. I'm assuming sacred ashes were involved. Maybe, I don't know. There's some vague posting about Belle's sword, about Belle being, the chosen one, vaguely. And then Sian also goes on to meet the Priest King. For some reason, he's masked and visits the Priest King, and Priest King says something along the lines of, "You became a." Their weird word for a teacher. You became that to escape the god, and you became a nomad to escape the kingdom. So go, nobody is going to be looking for a dead man, and his mask falls off, which I have no fucking clue what that entire scene was all about, but it happened. So it probably has some significance that is lost on me and probably on other people as well, but maybe the significance of it will be revealed with time. Which brings us to today's episode. And again, I have absolutely no idea what can happen today. Maybe the first performance that Belle will have to give to the Priest King, or to the god rather, because the god like sustains on those performances, like it's like his sustenance, which reminds me of a certain giraffe. But I don't know. Maybe we're gonna start that. Maybe we're gonna go, I don't know, screw around and walk around the city, and we're gonna have a little bit of a slice of life episode. I've no idea. I don't even know how many episodes this show has yet, so I can't really, figure anything out by that. Because if I knew that it's just 12 episodes, then okay, we're probably gonna cover all 3 trials within just this single season, so chances are that we're gonna go about it fast. If it's 24, well, we have some more time, right? I know so little about this show. I know so little about what's going on, and I'm fucking watching it. Yeah. Regardless of that, I've been talking for way too long, probably, so let's just watch it, right? Shall we? To do it, you'll need your subs, of course, to follow along with me. I'm gonna need my sound to hear what's going on in the show. Am I framed right? I am framed right. And I'm gonna have to ask you for support. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon, YouTube down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, it costs you nothing and helps a lot. And with that, we can start watching episode 4 of Bye Bye Earth in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, so she was selected after all. I thought she went there, like, despite not having been selected. Huh. Unwielding iron. Like, we know that swords can wield when destroyed. Is there currency named Unwielding Iron? It doesn't even have eyes, Belle. Okay, so with this amount of money, she's set for at least a year, I like to think. Yeah, I mean, she got some closure. probably wouldn't hurt to spar with them, right? Is that the mission? Trying to find them? Interesting. Is that him? Oh, hello, Adonis. He doesn't seem particularly strong. Or is this like a ploy to, you know, be there in that dark alleyway, get beaten up, and hope that Belle is gonna notice, and because she's a good girl, she's gonna wanna interfere, and that will somehow further Adonis's plans, whatever they might be. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how many levels we're operating on. We'll see. I thought that Adonis is some sort of a third party, or perhaps even like completely unaffiliated. It's surprising to see that he's one of the like gods solists, or whatever you want to call that group. Maybe a little brighter and a little less orange. I really should get a stronger light here in front, because the screen gives a lot of color to my face, and it should be the light that gives the color so that it remains static. But then again, if I were to mount more, then you would see more reflections in my glasses, so I don't know, I'll figure something out. Oh, this feels like the kind of a day that something happens. Poetry. Okay. Sure. Uh, I guess that explains... huh? Well, that was a switch. Yeah, I was about to say that it explains why, you know, like, things are reversed. Animals are plants and plants are animals, right? What the fuck is going on right now? Is this Adonis messing with her head? Or weird flashbacks? Okay, what was that all about? Why were you stealing a sword? Why? Did you grow your sword? That is a thought, yeah. Bad memories or something more magical? Is it noon or is something happening? Oh. What now? Whose sword did he steal? Yeah, the very same. The sword... Oh, shit! Well, who did that? Well, you're not gonna, you know, use your swords for much longer. Okay, at least one is still alive. True. Yeah, they seem much more like the evil guys. Yeah, and their swords go bye-bye. Hope you can grow a new one. Well, be more careful. How'd you make it up the tree? Take him! Oh, well, shit. That's a little cruel, isn't it? Yeah. People were losing their mind over... I mean, they were losing their mind over Belle eating plants, not killing them so much, so... Yeah, I guess makes sense. Yeah. That you're a sword killer. Or the girl of reason, yeah, apparently. One would think that the fact that she, like, destroys people's swords with no regard for anything would... Oh, thank you, system message. Hmm. Picked for what? Well, that's a fucked up dog. Shell, okay. Another new term. Restaurant. Restaurant. Really? Restaurant? What the fuck is going on? I guess the dog has like a pocket dimension in its stomach. Uh yeah, sacred ashes. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, okay, so the dog has a pocket dimension inside of it. Yeah, I mean, sure, makes sense. I mean, in some regards, this world is exactly the same as ours, isn't it? Very good question, actually. Hmm. I mean, you're plenty special already. So I don't where to go. I guess that was a bit of an issue with the subs. Asking it something. How? Through the swords? Through the do like weapons have memory? Question mark? Okay, apparently question mark is like a big deal. Actually, a very good question. What does it mean to be a soloist if you seemingly fight just, pre-made fights? They're not really, protecting their kingdom from barbarians or something, right? There are evil solists and good solists, all like working under the same king, right? Like, why do we fight? How did you figure that he can't grow his own sword from the information you have? Hmm. Okay, so I guess we need to send the good ones. Okay, apparently. Okay, and that is evil. Gotcha. I mean, the sword right presumably can do that. I'm assuming the people who are going to be sent after the mermaid. Choreography. That's how you look at it. Was that the voice of the evil part of the king that he was trying to emulate? And they're not called armies, they're called bands. It just dawned on me. So we're sending at least like 3 armies? 3, I guess, brigades, maybe? I don't know what the size is. Against a single soloist. Oh, not a single one. There is, I guess, more underdogs that the mermaid rallied? Or is it just a coincidence? What the fuck is going on? Oh, hello, Kitty. Right, he doesn't have the watch with him. Prince of the Nariland. Okay, he's a prince, apparently. And he's a prince. Hmm. Dispatched by whom? I mean, yeah, sure, it is a fair safeguard. Keep reason at bay. Why? Right, he can't use his powers other than just for teaching. Hmm. Oh, the music's coming in. You know what that entire exchange reminded me of? A lot? Fucking Arknight's storytelling. Yeah, it really didn't seem that way. Director. Okay, so they are using really just, musical terms everywhere. Conductor. Is this the sequel to Tact of Destiny that we've been awaiting? Who are you, Perry? You're a pretty boy, aren't you? Script. Is it like legitimately scripted? Or is it how you call, I don't know, battle plan? Who the fuck are you? Why are you yellow? Recorder with a chained sword, and he's a pianist. Is he there to, like, I don't know, record the performance and then pass it on to the king? Dead and zombified? Fair. Yeah. Fair. Oh man. Maybe it's because I'm recording this episode late and I'm not at my like full mental capacity or something. But while this episode was not the most confusing one so far, it was somehow the one that just kinda, I don't know, went over my head, really. I feel like I've, watched it and heard people say words, but that's about the limit of it. Wow, wow. Wow, wow, indeed. Performance of swords and scales, good and evil. Oh boy, did we can glean plenty still from this episode though. So it wasn't like entirely, I don't know, wasted time. I don't want to say it's wasted time, but you know what I mean, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what I mean. Let's watch it again, shall we? Uh oh boy. Uh I I wish I watched this episode earlier. I think maybe I should have watched it like straight after drinking my morning coffee or something, because I spent the last, what was it, an hour and change, I think, fixing the this list of Patreons, because it pulls the Patreon straight from the Patreon API, and I have it hosted on Versal, and Versal had some issues with deprecating the version of Node that it was using or whatever, and broke 7 ways to Sunday. And regardless, I'm gonna focus now. I'm gonna try to focus now, and maybe in hindsight glean some things. I see that this costume of like a long robe, a mask, and a weird hat is fairly common around the priest king, which makes me believe that they are like the lesser priests, and the color of the robe denotes who they are, right? Like the blue means they're the attendants of the king, yellow means they're the recorder to bring the king a recording of the performance, right? Something like that, probably. The king will reward you for a recent battle. You were selected to sort with the Solis. I did not see Belle being selected. Did I miss it? Or did the anime skip over it? I'm not sure. That's actually another thing that I think bears mention. There was so much like jumping around in this episode, and that one like really decent bit of seemingly time skip. Uh, I wonder how closely this anime is actually following the source material. You know, I wonder how much of how close to unnamed memory it is. Probably not anywhere near close. I really don't think anything is close to unnamed memory. Maybe season 2 of Promised Neverland, where they did like what, a volume of the source material with a PowerPoint presentation in the first episode, something like that, right? So it's probably nowhere close to that. But I wonder if they are skipping some, transitional bits here and there. If you're familiar with the source material, please let me know. No spoilers. I'd rather you don't spoil it to me, but just tell me if it's skipping a lot, if it's not skipping. Selected. That was my first mission, apparently without even being told that it's your mission. We commend you, and then it grows scales. I thought it's gonna be some sort of a pun, right? Like this growth is scaly, right? It's covered with scales. Set your sword upon the scales, and scales measure, and this is made of scales, and this will also measure without looking like a pair of scales. But no, he just grows scales at the end of it. Shall grant you unwilting iron commensurate with the deeds of which it tells. Apparently, if you do good by the king, you get your sword's weight equal in unwilting iron, which seems to be their currency. It will bless you with sustenance and go on to bless many with the same. I actually like this little bit of philosophy to it, right? Like, I'm giving you your payment, I'm giving you your gold, and may it bless you with, sustenance. And because you will be spending it, may it also bless the people you give it to with sustenance, right? You buy some bread from the baker, and that baker will have money to buy some ham, and the butcher will have money to buy some vegetables, right? I don't know. I like this bit of philosophy attached to this reward. Still 2 missions to go. 2 more solists. Tiziano is a mere person. Oh. And they apparently can shapeshift at will. And Adonis. I did not expect Adonis to be a solist. I really thought that he's some sort of a third party, either specifically looking for Belle for one reason or another, or sent by some organization to look for special people. Maybe some, I don't know, underground revolt is brewing against the god, or something like that. Alternatively, I expected him to be antagonistic towards Belle, right? Maybe sent by some organization focused on the purity, and she's impure because she's featureless, and and she kills swords, right? So we send our best man after her, or something like that. Alternatively, I expected him to be completely unaffiliated with anybody, and then Belle is also moving out eventually as a nomad. He also doesn't have anywhere to go, so might as well travel together. It's going to be a little bit easier, a little bit more fun. I expected something like that. I really did not see him as a soloist. Okay, what's going on here? I didn't get picked again. Right, so other squabbles are happening, other tiny little skirmishes, and she's not being selected for them. It's that bit about balance of good and evil, isn't it? Right? Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the most biggest, most visible themes in this show, in this story. The balance of good and evil, and should we keep it? Should we uphold it artificially? I think that's what's going on here, right? If the evil has a really strong representative, then we're gonna send a really strong force of the good ones so that it balances out, right? We can't have evil get a big, huge hero for them because it will shift the balance, but at the same time, we are not sending everybody, right? Our strongest people, because we can't just completely wipe evil off the map, because that would not be very balanced, right? Sometimes the people from the good side are sent to lose, because maybe there are too many good people around and the scales have shifted towards good, so we have to get rid of some of the good people so the balance shifts back. It's something like that, isn't it? Okay. Pops. Pets and animals in general grow like plants, which again, I guess, explains why she's seen as by some as a brute for killing plants, because she's essentially an omnivore in a world of herbivores. Except herbivores are eating animals because plants are animals and animals are plants. It's like a fucked up version of Nature of Predators. And I'm assuming the berries that she fed them are like meat that comes from some livestock, maybe, or something like that? Probably. Damn sword thief. Right, yeah. He's not looking down on them, he's spitting them for some reason. Those flashes, like flashback, flash forward, are kind of weird. It really threw me off. I thought for the longest time that it's maybe Adonis messing with Belle's head, right? Giving her those flashbacks to the pops, and none of that really ever happened, right? It's just in her head or something like that. But no, apparently not. He took the sword of a soulist, yeah. What's good is a sword you didn't grow yourself. That kind of makes me question the role of a sword right? Because sword right, you would assume, is the one who, writes swords, the one who makes them, the one who grows them. So I thought that you don't necessarily need to grow your own sword, right? You can go to a sword right, and the sword right will grow that sword for you. I thought that is how Belle's sword has been created, right? She got it from the sword right. She did not. I mean, she didn't even get it from a sword right, did she? She got it from a chained, like, prison cell. And it was made by someone else. It was grown by the sword right. And now she's surprised, like, what good is a sword you didn't grow yourself? Like, she didn't grow her own sword. So why the surprise here? Unless that is the explanation for why she calls her sword Runding, while it's named something else, right? Something that translates to Utopia. And why the sword has like seemingly two forms, right? Maybe she like grew her own layer over it or something like that, right? She didn't grow the sword itself, but she like grew, she like, you know, she got a plant and made a bonsai with it with her own touch, essentially. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Buys up the swords of those who renounce the blade. So there are people who renounce their blade. Interesting tidbit to know. Well, he doesn't grow it. I think he can't. I don't know. The girl who beat Kier. And yeah, apparently all of the pops are dead, because you always start with something soft when testing a sword's edge. It's weird. I mean, I know that it's basically a truism spoken in the context of this show, because anything here is weird, everything here is weird. But it really is weird that they would be growing like living beings for the sole purpose of training instead of providing like training dummies. at least, or sparring, right? Like you could get better by sparring with others. Or is it not so much about the growth of yourself as a swordsman? It's about the growth of your sword itself. Sword that needs to drink life essence essentially to grow more and more powerful. There was that moment at an inn where one of the people there said something about Kitty the Nothing, right? Like, if I strike this rabbit man with my sword, it's surely gonna grow. If my sword drinks its blood, it will surely grow stronger, right? Something like that. Something like that. I think it might be a way of leveling up your weapon, for to use a gaming term. Where is it? Bye bye Earth. There we go. Swords grow as they kill living beings. Safe assumption, I think, by now. Lusted over a few lousy pops too, and look at him. Very fast fight. I like the detail where it actually shows us that their swords are breaking. And I guess it's a nice cop-out as to why we're not showing blood and death, because of Belle's curse, right? She can't cause blood, she can't cause death. She can only break weapons. Interesting that nobody seems to have paid much mind to it, right? Like, when she destroyed the first guy's sword, I expected the others to say, like, oh, you destroyed his sword, it was freshly grown, what are you, mad? Or something like that. I expected maybe Adonis to also comment on that, but apparently not. How heartless can you be? Yeah. One of them is apparently still alive. That poetry was planted to grow pops for people to practice on. Truly sharp sword has to be able to cut soft things as well as hard. Right. If they can only cut down helpless creatures, they shouldn't be soulless. Yeah, it seems like a... like an easy and maybe inefficient way of grinding levels, for the lack of a better term, right? Instead of I don't know, at level 20, instead of going to a level 20 zone and fighting some bandits, losing some HP on it, but also getting good XP and maybe some loot and stuff like that, you go to a level 1 starting village and you spawn camp level 1 slimes that give you 5 XP each, but it's safe, right? Maybe something along those lines. Word that comes to mind is complacency. Like, they're not actually trying to grow stronger. They think they're trying to grow stronger, but they actually aren't. Because that would disrupt the balance, wouldn't it? We can't allow anybody to be particularly strong or particularly weak. Everybody should be more or less equal, because that's where balancing the sides of good and evil out works best, isn't it? Maybe? The Girl of Reason, yeah. Raven, avian messenger of death, sure. So, like, what? If they grow from corpses and then they fly away to the relative of the corpse, and if a raven plant lands near you, then you know that one of your loved ones died? If that is the case, then then Adonis lost 2 people because there are 2 ravens on the table, unless multiple ravens can grow from the same corpse, which is, I guess, plausible. I'll give you a ride. I'll bet Bamboo will like you too. My shell. Shell. Okay. It's always eating itself, so it doesn't exist anywhere. Ugh. Oh man. I mean, on one hand, it like makes sense that a creature who has a pocket dimension inside of itself could possibly like eat itself and thus hide itself inside of its own pocket dimension and then regurgitate itself. But that creates a lot of like whatever. Whatever. I'm just gonna take it at face value. I'm not gonna question it. You know, it's not the time of day. It's not the amount of caffeine in my bloodstream to be to be thinking about the implications of a creature who can. Let's continue. Restaurant. Are you for real? Restaurant, the magic of consumption. That's a name I would expect from fucking Ratatouille. Not from this show. Or is this how German people feel when watching Frieren? Where they hear the name of a spell or a person and they're like, oh, this spell is called Cold Wind. And it's freezing. Duh. And this is just English used creatively by restaurant. I don't know. Yeah, Sacred Ashes. I was expecting something wrong to maybe be with his hands because Belle paid a lot of attention to the gloves and that he apparently like is afraid of touching swords and stuff. But well, he seems perfectly normal for a cat man. That is. It might as well be an illusion. Actually, a good question. Is it an illusion? What Bamboo creates inside? Is the food you have here an illusion? Or does it actually, give you sustenance? I like this bit. A few bribes and they'll give me some under the table. I really like this bit because it humanizes this world. In a way, where you sometimes have a character who's like all too perfect, all too ideal, and just, an epitome of idealism and whatnot. But then you learn that they're a hardcore otaku, for example, right? And it kind of humanizes them. Or they make a mistake and it humanizes them. Or they like gorging themselves out on cup noodles, right? And that humanizes them. That little bit that does not fit the image of perfection, so to speak. And this is it in the context of this world, because, or at least this kingdom, right? Because so far it seemed to me like everything is controlled, right? None of the skirmishes that happen actually, happen because of tensions between the underdogs and the top dogs, for example. But it's rather created and preordained and ordered even by the priest king, right? Whenever someone gets robbed, well, it must be because the priest king wanted it and nobody was selected to catch the robber, right? If it was against the god's plan for that person to be robbed, then the god would select someone to stop the robbery, right? Everything is like working like clockwork, right? Everything works, everything intertwines. But this is a bit that makes this world a little bit more real, Of course there will be human greed. Of course there will be bribes. Of course people will be willing to give up, not really, to break their ideals a little bit, or their orders or whatever, for a little bit of that personal gain, right? It really makes this world feel a little bit more grounded. Grounded, I think that's the best word to use here. What is the girl of reason? Beats me. Yeah, apparently Gaff knows. Or, not Gaff, Sian. I don't where to go to find my people. Yeah, there's a word missing here. I don't know where to go to find my people. I'm just asking Park City something. That's a nice variety of weapons. The question mark. We give significance even to something as mundane as a question mark. Question of those who doubt, a glyph from the age of gods signifying one who doubts. This is my spell and also my other name. This is my spell and also my other name. I'm looking back to when Belle was asked to place her spell on the dog tag, and she wrote Lablac. Could it be that Lablac is also some sort of a spell as well as her name? Right? Like we have Belle Lablac and Adonis' question. And the second part of their name is the special power they have. Something like that? I don't know. Also, is language also going to be significant? Right? Because those seem like very, normal Latin characters written in a very Gothic script, but still Latin characters. They don't even look like the most commonly used, like Elder Futhark or Younger Futhark or something resembling a Futhark, as they usually use. But no, those are like English letters. What script does this world use? I wonder. I don't think we've seen any example of writing yet, besides the swords. And the words on the swords seem to be this, like, magical runes, essentially. The question, why did these swords and their wielders need to fight? What does it mean to be a soulist? Who is the king? Who is our god? All very good questions that I would very much like an answer to. Very good questions, because all of them, like, fit each other, right? All of them have something to do with each other. Why did they need to fight? Well, because the priest king ordered it. What does it mean to be a soulist? Not to protect your nation, right? Like, they're not training to protect themselves from the invasion of the neighboring country or anything like that. No, so to be a soulist means to fight soulists on the other side of the barricade. Who is the king? He's the one to keep the balance between both sides of the barricade. He's the one to decide who's going to fight who. Who is our god? Presumably the one who created the barricade. To what end? I don't know. Once I add my question to a sword, no one else can handle it. He can grow a sword himself. How did you come to that conclusion? Yeah, all the names. Tease down or get a bad habit of seducing people, irrespective of gender, then dangling themselves as a prize to make their lovers fight each other. Basically, they play God. People fighting for someone's amusement. They literally are playing the God here. Because that's what the god is doing as well, isn't it? Right? Pitting the underdogs against the top dogs to get performances. The god has an army of recorders, of people who witness those performances and record them. Right? It's literally playing their god. Broke their sword in a duel. Sounds like they finally went over to evil. Restore the scales to the balance our god desires. Your chosen solists of good show forth the notes of your blades. Shandigaf and Cure Royale are also chosen. My story in reverse. One way to fix a broken sword, but when you use it, sword tests its wielder, apparently. So yeah, how is it your story in reverse? I guess we're not gonna learn. This is an interesting place. It looks like half a hippodrome. You can't exactly run track here. You can't exactly run chariot races. Is it for marching band performances? I don't know. Also, the logo, the crest has the scales and the sword and the shield. We now get the scales, right? We know the 3 circles being the 3 stages around the tree. We know the sword because swords are apparently very important. Now we know the scales, right? The balance between good and evil. Now the weird wings, or whatever it is. We don't know the symbolism of that, and the shield. It could very well be just a heraldic shield, like a background for it, or it could have some other deeper meaning. Matching everyone else. Yeah, this was a little bit of a big jump from here to here. This is what made me wonder if we skipped something, maybe. What's wrong with moving to counter what I see coming? Right, you're thinking very individualistic, right? The thinking here is, I see enemy, I fight, my best against that enemy, but that is not what God desires. The God desires you to create a performance, right? And in a performance, like when a band is performing, and the armies are called bands, when a band is performing, it's not that everybody is doing a solo, right? If the electric guitar was just only doing riffs and showing off, and the drummer was doing all sorts of weird, crazy shit with the drums, right? If everybody was trying to show off, it would not be much of a performance. It would be trash metal. But they're holding themselves back, right? The members of the band, they don't show their full potential to create something bigger than that, to create a cohesive performance. And that's what God desires. Even if one of the performers dies to the enemy because they were, not giving their best, they were being a good, nice piece of the performance, well, that's, perfectly fine, because it's the performance that matters, not the performers. Follow the choreography, yes, in a Battle of the Bands, exactly. Battle of the Bands! It's really called the Battle of the Bands! I'm reminded of the song from Equestria Girls. the Dazzlings, yeah, the Dazzlings sung. You organized the bands for this fight. I grouped you all as best as I could. Take your complaints to the king. The second band and closing act will follow after you. You don't need to vanquish Tizano on your own. Don't do anything rash. catacombe. So catacombs. The underdogs considered it sacred ground the way the top dogs do their castle. So is there like an evil god residing within? No. The king, the priest king, already has that duality of good and evil, of angel and demon. So there wouldn't be a god residing in here, right? And also, I thought we were just fighting against Tizen, or whatever is their name, and not against a whole army, whole band, sorry, of evil soulists. The opening act is fighting now to secure our way in. They're fighting in the first band. And here we get a classic Arcanite storytelling. Arcanite stories, if you didn't know, most stories in Arcanites consist of like 15 different threads in like the span of the same story. Like 2 of those matter, really, for the progression. And the rest of them are Shadow A and Shadow B, vague posting, some vague philosophy about a puddle that they've noticed. Right? It doesn't fucking matter whatsoever. But it's lofty, and it's philosophical, and it's vague, and it's, ooh, maybe there's something to it, right? Maybe, but usually not. And it really reminded me of that. They're like, did you? Yes. But what if? No. Don't worry, I will. Will you? Of course. You are, after all, my... Yes, I know. Right? Like, this exchange had this sort of a vibe to me. Roaming Prince of Denari Land and Roaming Prince of Schwertland. Is it why the Priest King referred to Cian as a brother? Or some other familial relation? I merely came to ask the one who would abscond with reason what he intends. I was dispatched to observe and judge reason. Are we seeing some sort of a duality here? Like Kitty is a prince of a country that values reason, while Cian is the prince of a country that values unreasonableness? Something like that? Is my question about how many kingdoms are there going to be answered? Maybe. I mean, we know that there is at least one more. Do they have their own god, right? Do they have their own king? If her menace can't be managed, I'll kill her and all who know of her. She must question its reason, so it all comes down to Deus Ex Machina, Divine Symphony of Iron and Blood, the god's resistance. The god's resistance! And this god will try many a ploy to keep reason at bay. Is this... Are we doing atheism? Is that what it is? I think that might be it. Right? The god doesn't want you to question the unreasonableness of this world. Because if you start to question it, and you start seeing reason, right? The unreasonableness jumps at you and you start to question it, which doesn't make fucking sense. But you know what I mean, right? Like, the god doesn't want you to think about why the Christian god sacrificed himself as an offering to himself to get humanity rid of the punishment that he himself enacted on it, right? If you think about it, it doesn't make fucking sense. You start seeing reason, but the god doesn't want you to. Is this like this, but like overblown to the scale of the world and like reality? Maybe that's one of the themes. How do I note it down? Seeing reason is like atheism. That's why the God wants to prevent it. Maybe, right? And so fiercely that it may nip reason in the bud. Is this why this world is so weird? Like, if you see on the daily tiny dogs being born of plants, and salty water being black, and people changing shape, and you see all that sort of shit, then you don't even question that there is a god in a tree. Is this what it is? Overload the people so much and get them used to the unreasonableness and weirdness so much that they stop questioning anything at all? Maybe. Or maybe I'm looking too deep into it. But I have one more question for you. What is that girl to you? She's like a raven blossom sprouting from my body after I've fallen in a play. She will carry the corpses of words to heights I can never reach. She is my hope. Apparently. We meet our fellow fighters, presumably. And yeah. He's a soloist, Perry. His libretto, not a soloist, libretto Gwyn, and the recorder with a chained sword. Chained, a locked sword. I won't need to report anything more to the king. And he's named Pianistus, like his position is Pianistus, but he's also a recorder, and he has a chained sword. Okay, let's continue. Magical barriers of some sort. It's been washed clean, but the air's stagnant and I smell blood. I thought that those people might have been like zombified or something, but apparently they pity them? They're waiting for us to take the stage and get massacred. It's a joke, alright, a sick one. Like... What? Why would they be, like, immediately so much hated by the rest of the army? Did they even have a chance to interact, or is it because Belle like destroyed a couple of swords of those good solists supposedly, and the rumor spread, and they're like, oh, she's the sword killer, shun her, shun her, shun her. Maybe, I don't know why Adonis is being shunned. That much is kind of obvious. I mean, he is known as the sword stealer, right? Sword thief. So I guess maybe Belle also has this sort of a negative press around her. Let the Schwertmusik begin. Performance of swords and scales, good and evil. All right. All right. Oh. Okay. So, this episode gave us some, right? It gave us some useful stuff. We know a little bit more about the plants versus animals sort of distinction, at least to a little bit. At least we know that plants are actually like animals, right? We know that bit because so far we've only seen the Kraken Kirin flower thing from episode 1, right? And now we see more examples of it, essentially, so we can form a more coherent and more coherent theory based in reality a little bit more, right? We get those additional tidbits about the balance, that the good and the bad must be balanced completely and utterly, no matter the cost. But at the same time, people still seem to have their free will. So it seems like the god, or maybe the priest king, is the balancing factor here. It's not that they control people entirely, but they control the situation rather. They can't control how many people are born good, for example, but they can control the fact that if too many people are born good, then they're gonna send a small little contingent of good people against the big army of bad people to massacre them, to balance out the scales, essentially, right? That's what's going on here, I think. I'm really wondering about Belle being the girl of reason here, because she is questioning plenty, sure, but at the same time she also takes plenty at face value. Some of that, of course, can be, due to her upbringing in this world, which makes sense, right? Why would she know? Why she would know pops, for example, and what they eat and what they are, right? I don't know, man. I really wonder what's the end goal here. Besides, I mean, the tangible end goal here, of course, so far, right now, is for Belle to become a nomad and find her people, right? That's the tangible end goal. But I wonder what's the more immaterial, intangible, abstract end goal here. Is the end goal here to bring reason to this world? Is it to embrace its unreasonableness? Is it to overthrow the god? Is it to elevate the people as their own god? Is it to create a new deity to worship? Right? Like what's gonna happen there, I wonder. Yeah. Every time I watch an episode of Bye Bye Earth, I'm just a little bit more tired. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. I mean, this episode has been already going on for an hour and 20 minutes, way longer than I intended. But there was a lot to talk about in this episode, despite me saying that I did not get much of it, that it went over my head. Apparently, it didn't go over my head enough for this video to be short, so it's long. So apparently, there was a lot to talk about after all. Regardless, I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna go to sleep, and that's gonna be it. As always, you guys, you tell me what did you think of this episode, of my reaction, my theories, stuff like that in the comments below. No spoilers, please. Spoilers can go to my Discord here, also in the description below. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to be notified of future videos, not only Bye Bye Earth, but also Wistoria, Isekai, Shikkaku, QA, Isekai, Spice and Wolf, plenty others coming in the future. Click the bell to be notified of when I go live, because I do go live sometimes. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon down below, where for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonal shows, and for just $1 you get a role on the Discord and a place in the credits. You can also support me directly on YouTube through membership, super thanks, super chats, and if you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, you don't have to share my content, spread the word. It costs absolutely nothing and helps the channel a lot. And now, with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's my wonderful Patreons: QB without an Edze, Reina, Yuki, Alai, Chibi Bro, Dr. Wota, Komasar, Marsh, Fassel, and Hans Peter. And you can join them if you want without having to grow any pops.